I walked buyers through all the different towns around Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan. A lot of them have a question on their mind from me at some point during the search. Jon, if it was you, where would you actually live? So I figured I'd finally answer it on camera for real. I'm Jon Boyd, and for over 30 years I've worked exclusively as a buyer's agent. My whole job has been representing buyers, not sellers. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly where I live and why, including the parts I'd change if I could. Then I'll break down where I'd point you if you're single and just starting out, where I'd point you if you have a family, and where I'd point you if you're closer to retirement. And the last one on this list is the town I'd probably move to myself if I ever left where I am now. People assume the guy who's walked buyers through all the different areas around Ann Arbor picked the flashiest one for himself. South Township on the far west side of Ann Arbor school system is where I live, and my wife and I have been here over 34 years. My wife and I picked out this area for pretty simple reasons. We wanted a country-sized lot, but we wanted to be in the Ann Arbor school system for our children. We also wanted a short 6-minute drive into Ann Arbor. Now here's a misconception I run into constantly. Relocating buyers assume there's one objectively best area around Ann Arbor, and their job is to find it. There isn't. There's only the best area for what they personally need, and that's a completely different exercise. I've sat across the table from two families with nearly identical budgets who ended up in totally different areas because one cared most about their commute and the other cared most about walking to a coffee shop on Saturday morning. Neither was wrong. When I sit down with someone relocating here for a job at the university or one of the local tech companies, this is usually one of the first areas I bring up, and not because I live here. It comes up because it solves a specific problem a lot of relocating buyers have. You can buy a modern home just minutes from restaurants and shopping, less than 15 minutes to campus, and still have the lower township taxes. Over the years of doing this full time, I've noticed something. Buyers who move here sight unseen almost always ask me the same three questions. How far is the commute really going to feel? Is the school district really as good as it looks on paper? And what's the trade-off for a lower price tag? So when we picked where we were going to live, we ran through the exact same list ourselves. We didn't skip the exercise just because I grew up here and know this market better than almost anyone moving here. If anything, that made me more careful about it, not less. That's really the whole game here. Every area around Ann Arbor is a trade-off between value, home features, commute, and school quality. Nobody gets everything, not even me. Here are the honest trade-offs about where I live. Nobody who lives here will tell you it's perfect, and I'm not going to pretend my choice is somehow superior either. One of the current downsides here on homes with acre and larger size lots is that with larger lots, the water comes from individual wells with each house, and a lot of the wells on this side of town have become unusable because of groundwater pollution that started many years ago. It is a serious discussion we've been having with home buyers for at least 20 years now. The second trade-off is that even though ours is a country home, you can hear the I-94 highway 24 hours a day when the windows are open. The quick commute into Ann Arbor makes up for it for us, but for some folks looking for a country home, the highway sound makes it a non-starter. Many agents skip over the negatives when they talk about their own neighborhood because it's easier to just sell the highlight reel. But if you're relocating from out of state, you need the real picture, not a postcard version. Here's the thing about Ann Arbor specifically. A lot of the housing stock in and around the core of the city was built before 1960. That means older systems, older layouts, and usually some renovation before it matches what a buyer moving from a newer market expects. Where I live isn't immune to that. I've walked buyers through homes where the bones are great, but the electric panel hasn't been touched since Kennedy was in office. And that's a conversation you want to have before you write an offer, not after your inspector finds it. I tell every relocating buyer the same thing. Don't fall in love with an area before you understand what you're trading away to live there. We had to make that same decision ourselves, and we would make it again, but we went in with my eyes open, knowing exactly what I was going to give up to get what I wanted. That's really the whole point of this video. I want you to go in with your eyes open too, whether you're moving here on your own, with a family, or heading into retirement. I just walked you through a couple of the trade-offs. I dealt with picking my own area, and every single area I'm about about to cover has its own version of that same trade-off. If you're relocating here without ever having set foot in Washtenaw County, guessing wrong on one of these trade-offs can mean paying $30,000 to $50,000 more than you needed to, or ending up in a 45-minute commute you didn't sign up for. Our Ann Arbor area relocation guide breaks down the trade-offs for every area I cover in this video side by side, so you can compare price, commute, and schools before you ever book a flight out here. Grab it at the link in the description or text me directly at 734-662-6240 and I'll send it to you myself. All right. Where I'd live as a young professional. If you're moving here single or as a couple with no kids yet for a job at the university or one of the tech companies downtown, this is where I'd point you to first. Downtown Ann Arbor has serious walkability. You can walk to work, walk to dinner, walk home without ever thinking about parking. Nearly 15% of Ann Arbor residents walk to work, and the city has over 475 miles of sidewalks and 57 miles of shared use paths. If you don't want a car payment on top of a mortgage payment, that matters. Here's the trade-off. That walkability comes at a price. Over the last 3 months, the median sale price downtown was up to $700,000. That's up 77% from the same period last year. That's a steep jump, and it tells you demand for this exact lifestyle isn't slowing down. The University of Michigan employs over 30,800 people, and a huge share of them want to live close enough to walk or bike in. That demand is exactly why downtown prices have moved the way they have. A lot of relocating buyers assume that number is inflated by students renting nearby, but it really isn't. It's driven by staff, researchers, and hospital employees who could afford to live anywhere in the county and are choosing to pay for proximity instead. That's the piece a lot of young professionals miss when they first start looking here. They assume downtown pricing is a college town markup they can avoid by looking one town over, when really it's competition from people in their exact same career stage bidding on an exact same handful of walkable streets. If you're early in your career and want your commute to disappear entirely, downtown is worth paying for. If you'd rather save that money and don't mind a short drive, I'd point you to somewhere else. We can talk through your actual budget and priorities. Once you've got children in the picture, the whole equation changes. The question stops being about walkability and starts being about schools. Saline is where I'd suggest families relocate here consider. Saline ranks number 2 out of every school district in the county and number 19 out of the 523 school districts across the entire state of Michigan. Saline High School carries a 96% graduation rate. For a family relocating from out of state, that's the kind of number that takes the guesswork out of a decision you're making sight unseen. Here's what people don't expect. Saline is significantly more affordable than Ann Arbor proper. The median price in Saline is $420,000 as of May 2026, down about 5% from the year before. Compare that to Ann Arbor's citywide median price of $485,000, and you're getting a top-ranked school district for less money than the city it sits next to. That surprises a lot of out-of-state families I work with, because the assumption is always that the better school district costs a lot more. Here, it's more balanced, and it's one of the few times in this market where the safe choice and the value choice actually line up. The trade-off is commute. You're not walking to campus from Saline, but for many families I work with, that's a trade they're happy to make. You get a quieter street and a school system that's proven itself in exchange for a 20 to 25 minute drive into Ann Arbor. In balance, a child who might be a big fish in a small pond in Saline could be a small fish in a big pond in Ann Arbor. Part of this choice will depend on your children and what they're interested in. In my many years matching relocating families to towns around here, Saline is the one I bring up first almost every time schools and elbow room are top priorities. It's not the only good option, but it's the one that keeps coming up because it keeps delivering. Out of every area I show relocating buyers, this is the one I'd move to myself if I ever left where I am now, and my late mother lived there when she sold the Ann Arbor home I grew up in. Chelsea. Chelsea is a small city on the west side of Washtenaw County, and it's built around a genuinely walkable downtown. Main Street has restaurants, a bookstore, and the Purple Rose Theater, which was founded by actor Jeff Daniels. For someone coming out of a career and looking to slow down, that matters more than people expect. You're not driving to find a sense of community, it's sitting right downtown. The median sale price in Chelsea was $366,581 in May of 2026, and slightly down down from the year before. That puts it in a similar range to Whitmore Lake, but with a walkable town center Whitmore Lake just doesn't have. The misconception I hear most from retirees relocating here is that small town automatically means nothing to do. Well, Chelsea is the counterexample. You've got a working theater with a nationally recognized name behind it, a downtown you can walk end to end, and an area without the crazy fall Saturday football traffic that comes with living inside Ann Arbor proper. That combination is genuinely rare in this county. Chelsea also has a nice hospital right in the center of town, often with much shorter emergency room wait times than we find in Ann Arbor. In fact, if hospital access is a bigger priority for you, Brighton is worth knowing about too. University of Michigan Health System operates both the Brighton Health Center and the Brighton Center for Specialty Care right in town, meaning you get access to UM-level care without needing to drive all the way into Ann Arbor. Brighton also sits minutes from Kensington Metro Park and Idle Lake Recreation Area if outdoor recreation is what you're after. But if I'm being honest about where I'd personally land, it's probably still Chelsea. The pace, the walkability, and the sense that everything you need is within a few blocks is exactly what I'd want or once the busy years are behind me. After the years of showing people almost every town in this county, that's not a guess. That's the one that I keep coming back to. Everything I just walked you through, downtown for the walkability, Saline for the schools, Chelsea for the pace of life, this all comes from spending over 30 years helping match buyers to areas based on what actually fits their life, not what sells the fastest. Picking the wrong one of these towns can mean paying tens of thousands more than you need to, or realizing 2 years in that area that the town doesn't fit your life the way you thought it would. As a buyer's agent, I don't have a listing to push you toward or a quota tied to a specific neighborhood. My only job is figuring out which of these areas actually fits the person sitting across from me, whether that's someone starting a career, raising a family, or winding down toward retirement. If you're relocating to the Ann Arbor area and want to talk through which of these towns actually fits your situation, call or text me directly at 734-662-6240 and we'll figure it out together.